Welcome back to the Freedom Room, where we explore the debate, decisions, and the issues shaping America today. In this video, we are looking at one of the most controversial political battles in the United States: Republicans versus Democrats on immigration. Two different versions for Americans' border, economy, and future. Immigration has always been a major part of the American story, but today it has become one of the biggest dividing lines between two major political parties in America. Republicans often focus on border security, enforcement, and controlling illegal immigration, while Democrats generally emphasize legal pathways, humanitarian protections, and the role immigrants play in American society and the economy. But the debate is more and more complicated than political slogans. Behind the argument are millions of people. Behind these arguments are millions of families. Behind the argument are millions of workers and communities affected by immigration policies. Why do Republicans and Democrats see this issue so differently? What are the arguments on both sides? And what could American immigration future look like? Stay with us as we examine this heated debate. First, let's watch some clips together. When we come back, we'll come back with more commentary. Stay tuned and watch to the end. This is the Freedom Room.
If you hate Trump because of his stance on illegal immigration, listen to this.
If you're a criminal, you'll be deported. If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half century.
Some of y'all forgot Obama's literal nickname was Deporter-in-Chief and that he deported way more people than Trump ever did. But somehow, Trump is the racist. Got it.
Take a look at what Bill Clinton had to say about immigration back in 1995. If he had this belief in 2024, would he still be a Democrat?
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
You think if he delivered this speech in 2024, he'd still be a Democrat? I don't think so. It just goes to show how extreme the Democratic Party has become over the last 30 years. You heard what he had to say about welfare benefits for migrants. Well, sanctuary cities are now providing migrants with food and shelter, and even prepaid debit cards in places like New York City. But let me know what you think about Bill Clinton's State of the Union speech in the comments.
Soft on crime's compassionate, according to Democrats, because yesterday, 150 House Democrats voted not to deport illegal aliens arrested for drunk driving.
This bill, designed to scapegoat and denigrate immigrants, will not solve the serious problem of DUIs. The bill says that a conviction for a single DUI offense, misdemeanor or felony, makes you instantly deportable, and an admission to such an offense makes you instantly inadmissible. No questions asked. And I hope my colleagues will stop referring to people as illegals. People are human beings.
Break into the country, kick cops, drive drunk. There, you get to stay. Here's $9 grand. Oh, and 155 House Democrats just voted against deporting illegals who commit Social Security fraud. So you can break into the country, steal my grandmom's Social Security number, open up a credit card in her name, buy a flat screen, get caught, kick the cop in the face, get bailed out, give me the finger, and drive drunk to California for a free sex change. Biden won't arrest that hombre, but he wants to put Trump in prison for life.
We have to decide, are we allowed to have extrajudicial gangs go around our communities, take people from their homes, ship them to God knows where? Is the president allowed to have his own secret army, secret police that can just take people, hurt people? In Chicago, there was just an ICE raid this last week where they tricked people who were following the legal immigration process into coming for a check-in and then arrested them and assaulted protesters and elected officials. This is beyond the pale, and just because Stephen Miller wants to get quotas of brown people that he doesn't want to see on the streets doesn't mean that we should think it's okay.
There is a new form of legal immigration that Republicans do not like, and that is dual citizenship. In the United States of America, you can be a U.S. citizen and you can also be a citizen of any other country that you want. Multiple countries. This is quite common. Republicans don't like that. They want you only to be able to be a U.S. citizen and have no other citizenships. This is a radical departure from the way the laws are, but unlike other changes to the law, this is an actual legal change. They introduced a bill to change the law. They're not trying to do it with a memo or an executive order. So that's a refreshing change. But will this bill pass? I don't think so. But it gives you a sense of where the Republican values are. It's not that they don't have respect for the immigration laws and they're against illegal immigration. They want to strip away legal rights. And I don't think that's right. What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments below.
To all the people posting about the ICE deportations, like they're on the side of empathy and everybody else is just evil, do you guys think that we enjoy seeing a non-violent immigrant's dreams crushed and they're crying because they're being deported back to their home country? No, we don't enjoy that. We just recognize that it's not empathetic to choose your position on an issue just based on what feels good and what sounds good. We have to track who is coming in and out of our country. They can come to our country. They just have to come in the right way because we need to know who these people are. An open border allows for not only criminals to come into our country, but open borders allow for more human trafficking. Open borders are the reason why tens of thousands of children went missing, largely due to human trafficking. Open borders are the reason why cases like Lake and Riley even were allowed to happen in the first place. There's a reason why other countries enforce their border, and we aren't the bad guys for enforcing our border and fixing problems that never should have happened in the first place.
Holy shit, get ready for this one. Because if you've ever heard somebody say immigrants are a drain on the system, or they're taking resources that should go toward Americans, and you knew they were full of shit, but you didn't have the facts to refute, I have great news, because after watching this video, not only will you know how to respond, but you'll have a counterpunch too, and they'll never see it coming. So first, a brand new study was just released from the Cato Institute. If you've never heard of them, it's a libertarian think tank, and they're typically cited by the Reagan-type Republicans when they want to cut spending. This specific study sought to evaluate the impact of immigrants on government spending. To do this, they looked at data from 1994 to 2023. 94 was the first year they started collecting it. So this data spans 30 years and it does include undocumented immigrants. Now there are way too many findings in the study to capture them all in one video. I'm going to give you the high-level summary. First and most important takeaway is that the existence of immigrants reduced the deficit every single year over those 30 years. A 30-year streak of paying more in taxes than they cost the government at the local, state, and federal level combined. This is because while immigrants are paid lower wages on average, they work at much higher rates. Over this time period, immigrants only made up about 14% of the U.S. population, but they made up over 18% of the workforce. Meanwhile, because immigrants are 25 years old when they arrive on average, it costs us next to nothing in terms of public education. Then because they're far less likely to work government jobs, they're less likely to be eligible for a public pension. And while immigrants in the United States are more likely to be living in poverty, they are no more likely than a U.S. citizen to need government support. And that includes food stamps, Medicaid, tax credits, and unemployment insurance. And despite Trump's lies, they're also half as likely as a U.S.-born citizen to have a felony or serve time in prison. So they're saving us money there too. You add this all together, it turns out over that 30-year period, Immigrants contributed 14% of tax revenue and only accounted for 7% of government spending, contributing a net positive impact of $14.5 trillion to the U.S. economy, with $6.3 trillion of that positive impact from non-citizens alone. That $14.5 trillion is so massive that without immigrants, in 2023, our national debt would have been double what it was. These numbers are so insane, I was required to ask a follow-up question. If immigrants are so good for our economy, are they better than Republicans? You won't believe what I found. Because in that exact same 30-year period, Republican presidents were in charge of 12. And in those fiscal years, Republican presidents accounted for $11.2 trillion of new debt, running annual deficits almost double on average the Democratic presidents in that same 30-year period, by the way. And with virtually all of that debt spending going to Wall Street, tax cuts for the wealthy, military spending, and forgivable loans to business owners through 2020 and 2021, we can safely confirm that next to none of that debt went to those same immigrants who were driving a positive impact. Altogether proving that not only do immigrants have a net positive impact on the economy, they're more important to our economy than Republicans.
We are a nation of immigrants. This country was not built by immigrants. This country was built by settlers who came here and built this country from nothing.
The wealth of this country was built by enslaved black people. The railroads are built by Asian immigrants. And every time the US went to war, it imported Mexican immigrants to help win the fight. So immigrants did build this country. The only people who didn't build this country are the people who stole the land and put its original inhabitants to the sword.
The clips you just watched reveal why immigration remains such a difficult issue in American politics. Republicans argue that a nation must have strong borders and clear enforcement of immigration laws. Many Republican leaders say illegal immigration places pressure on public resources, affects wages in some industries, and creates security concerns. They support measures such as increasing border enforcement, expanding deportation of people who are in the country illegally, and limiting certain immigration programs. Democrats, on the other hand, often argue that immigration reforms should include stronger legal pathways, protection for certain groups, and policies that recognize the economic and the social contribution of immigrants. Many Democrats point to immigrants' role in industries such as healthcare, agriculture, technology, and entrepreneurship, while also supporting border management and improve immigration system. Parties face criticisms. Republicans are sometimes accused by critics of focusing too heavily on enforcement without enough attention to humanitarian concerns. Democrats are sometimes criticized by opponents who argue that their policies do not encourage or their policies do not do enough to discourage illegal entry. The reality is that immigration involves difficult questions about law, about security, about economics, and human rights. So let me ask you this. Should American immigration system focus more on stronger enforcement, or should it focus more on creating opportunities for legal migration? And do you believe Republicans and Democrats can find a compromise on this issue? Share your thoughts in the comment section. Continue to watch the Freedom Room. We'll come back with more commentary. Let's continue to watch more clips. When we return, I will discuss what is at stake for Americans' future as far as Republicans and Democrats are concerned, especially on immigration laws and other policies affecting citizens in America. Stay tuned. Watch to the end. Subscribe to the Freedom Room. We'll be back with more commentary.
If you've ever heard a Republican say, I don't mind immigration, I just want them to come here the right way, ask them to try this one on for size, because this is Annie Ramos. Annie is 22 years old and she was born in Honduras, but she was brought here by her parents when she was 22 months old, which I have to remind you is not a crime because 1-year-old babies can't be criminals. From her first memory, Annie has lived her entire life as an American. She applied for DACA when she was 16 years old in 2020, a full 2 years before she was a legal adult, but because of Trump, they had stopped processing new applications. Annie then enrolled at Arizona State University, where she's currently only a few months away from getting a degree in biochemistry. Annie then married Matthew Blank. Matthew is a 23-year-old staff sergeant in the Army, and they planned on beginning their new life together living on base at Fort Polk in Louisiana. To make sure they did this the right way, they hired an immigration lawyer, and they arrived at the base together with her Honduran passport, her birth certificate, their marriage license, and his military ID. And that's when the federal government welcomed them with open arms and congratulated them for doing it the right way, right? Nope, they called ICE. Annie was then handcuffed, detained, and driven away in a military police vehicle. Now, before any Republican apologists say, yeah, but Annie probably just fell through the cracks, that would be incorrect. Annie has been working with immigration attorneys her entire life. They told the whole story to DHS, and they had all the documentation to prove that she was married to Matthew, but DHS detained her anyway. And then they had the nerve to say that Annie was detained as she attempted to enter a military base, which makes it sound like she's a goddamn terrorist. And then after she was sent to a detention facility, Matthew and his mom went to visit her, and with them they brought a new completed form that only needed her signature so she could apply for a green card. But the guards at the detention center confiscated it before they could speak to her. Annie Ramos grew up here. She never committed a crime. She fully and solely assimilated to American culture. She even married an American soldier. She did every single thing the right way, and now this new bride is sitting in a detention center. Even though if she had simply been abandoned here by her parents, she would already be a citizen. Because the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952 says found children under the age of 5, remember she was 22 months old, with unknown parentage are assumed to have been born here and are granted citizenship that cannot be revoked after they turn 21. And she's 22. But she tried to do it the right way. So now she's in a detention center while he waits to find out if he's going to have to go off and fight in Donald Trump's war, which has to be just great for morale. But remember, Donald Trump doesn't want people talking about his mass deportation agenda. So you should absolutely not share this story.
Mr. President, undocumented immigrants,
we actually do have time for that.
They're not eligible for the health care subsidies that Democrats are demanding. So can you clarify, what are you talking about when you say Democrats want to protect their health care?
So when an illegal person comes in, a person who came into our country illegally, therefore breaking the law, and look, we all have big hearts. I have a bigger heart than you do. They're all breaking the law, and they're coming into our country. And we just, as a country, cannot afford to take care of millions of people who have broken the law coming in. We want them to come into our country, but we want them to come in legally. Now we have a strong border, very strong border, thanks to Christie and Tom Homan and the whole group. They've done an amazing job at the border. I mean, we had a border that was reckless. We had a border that was a disaster. They were coming in by the millions. I say 25 million people. You're saying less, but I say 25 million people came in illegally. And no system can take care of the health care of all of those people that came.
I've never seen such hate in a country like America, the way they hate only one man. Americans have been spoiled, and they think that the more they make noise, the more they get things done. To get things done calls for what? Pragmatic assessment on how you're going to get things done. Not this wasting of time and just protesting somebody who loves his country. In my life, I've never seen such hate in a country like America, the way they hate only one man. How is that possible? How can you hate one man just because he loves his country? What is this?
What up?
I travel all the way from Africa to come to this country legally to make sure the American dream is realized by me. My kids are born here, so I have to...
Do you mind sharing your name?
My name is Faith.
Faith, spell that.
Yes, F-A-Y-Z.
F-A-Y-Z. Make sure you guys share this and tag people who need to hear this message and make sure this guy goes famous.
Let's go to a specific example that I think proved really detrimental during the election for the Democrats, and that is the border. It's pretty clear that the border was a real problem in terms of security and the pressure it was putting on not just those border communities, but all kinds of other areas with the amount of people coming in. The administration had the ability to do something in a pretty agile and urgent way through executive action. And they kept saying, well, if they put something in front of my desk, I'll sign it. Or the parliamentarian says I can't do, and they've got all these reasons. And I always think of this as this is Washington. It's rules, it's loopholes, and it's norms. If you don't want to do something, it's complex enough. There's always a rule that tells you that you don't have to do it. But there's always a loophole if you really do want to do it. And there's always a norm where you can shake your finger at somebody for doing it. They let that border situation fester for 2 years and ultimately just did the thing that they could have done 2 years earlier. And didn't that show people, wait, so the government could do it, they just didn't?
Not having sanctuary cities in our state, nor will we be a sanctuary state. I've been very, very transparent about that. I think that only encourages illegal immigration, and it does restrict our local police in certain ways. And if a local mayor and police chief want to work in partnership with a federal agency to keep their community safe, I think they should be allowed to do so. Having said that, anyone who came here from a history of criminality, came here illegally, came from a history of criminality in their country of origin, has to go back. Anyone who came here illegally and has committed crime or has scammed our government assistance program since coming here has to go back. I believe that everyone else should be put on a pathway to recognition. This has always been my position.
That's not really a real thing. That doesn't confer any status to anyone. So that's why, standing up here, I'm incredibly concerned about public safety. I'm a former federal prosecutor. I'm the only person on the stage who's prosecuted a violent criminal who was then deported. So I care deeply about that. But I've always been for comprehensive immigration reform, as have many people. We got very close, even with some very conservative members of the Senate. And that involves securing our borders, creating a pathway to citizenship for DACA recipients, TPS recipients, people who are working and paying taxes. Having that pathway could be so helpful to our economy. So that's a very clear answer to this. I think Jack works to say anything he can to anyone, but at the end of the day, he's always going to do what Trump tells him to do.
What happens to immigration if Republicans lose the midterms? This could change everything, and nobody is talking about it. Right now, Trump has full control. Republican House, Republican Senate, every immigration policy, the raids, the deportations, the travel bans, the denaturalizations, all of it moves forward because nobody in Congress is stopping it. But the numbers are shifting. Trump's approval on immigration has dropped from 50% after inauguration to 38% today. Among Latino voters who supported him in 2024, approval has collapsed from 48% to 31%. 69% of Americans say the administration is focused too much on deportations and not enough on the economy. Even Republican voters are questioning whether ICE has gone too far. The midterms are in November. Every House seat is on the ballot. A third of the Senate is up, and Republicans are entering with the narrowest House majority in modern history. If Democrats take the House, here is what changes. 1. The budget. Democrats control what gets funded. ICE surge operations, the border wall, the smart glasses program, the detention expansion, all of it requires money. A Democratic House can cut that funding or block it entirely. 2. Oversight. Congressional subpoenas, public hearings, investigations into ICE shootings, detention conditions, the denaturalization program, the airport arrests. Every policy this administration has tried to keep quiet gets dragged into the spotlight. 3. Legislation gets blocked. Any reconciliation bill, including a potential DACA amnesty deal, needs the House. If Democrats control it, Trump cannot pass immigration legislation without negotiating with them. That means compromise becomes mandatory, not optional. 4. Impeachment. Trump himself has warned Republicans about this. He told lawmakers at a retreat that losing the midterms could lead to impeachment proceedings. That threat alone changes how aggressively the administration pushes immigration enforcement heading into November. Now here is the other side. Even if Democrats take the House, they cannot undo executive orders. They cannot fire ICE agents. They cannot stop deportations on their own. The president still controls enforcement. But they can starve it of funding, expose it publicly, and block every new policy from moving forward. And here is the bigger picture. According to Brookings, if Republicans suffer losses in 2026 because of immigration backlash, both parties may finally have incentive to negotiate comprehensive immigration reform. Democrats because they want a path to citizenship. Republicans because they need to stop bleeding voters. The 2026 midterms might not just change Congress. They might be the thing that finally forces a real immigration deal. every vote in November matters, not just for politics, but for millions of families whose futures depend on what Congress does next.
Yeah, we need to let people into the country, but we need to not just let them walk across the border.
That's your stance on immigration. You want to let people in, you just want there to be some order and regulation to it.
Absolutely.
You need immigration. I mean, if the population doesn't grow, the economy is going to suffer. I'm all for it. It's just, I want to know who these people are. Don't want criminals coming in. You know, I mean, that's why we have the green card system, you know, the HB1 visas and all this other stuff. I mean, I'm a school teacher. Half the people I work with in my high school are foreigners.
I think they ultimately could find common ground if they actually just sat down and talked and realized this is about compromise.
I want to do, and what I will do, is you graduate from a college, I think you should get automatically, as part of your diploma, a green card to be able to stay in this country. And that includes junior colleges, too. Anybody graduates from a college, you go in there for 2 years or 4 years. If you graduate or you get a doctorate degree from a college, you should be able to stay in this country.
America isn't divided by left versus right. It's divided by this one simple cultural perspective. Is different dangerous, or is different desirable? And while this is framed as politics in America, it is about culture. It's Hofstede's uncertainty avoidance cultural dimension. Every fight you see over immigration, education, the economy comes back to this. On one side are those who believe different is dangerous. Change feels threatening. New ideas, new people, new rules, they all create fear. So the instinct is to control, to build walls, to fight against the change. On the other side are those who know different is desirable, that diversity, innovation, even conflict are what make nations strong and prosperous. For them, change isn't a threat, it is an opportunity. And they are right. And that is not an opinion. It is how nations and people actually progress, become better, stronger, more prosperous throughout every culture and throughout every time. And there's more about cultural perspective at culturalperspective.com. So this divide explains Trump. His supporters overwhelmingly see the world through the different is dangerous cultural perspective. They believe America's problems come from anything they are not used to, anything new, anything unfamiliar, immigrants, global trade, new ideas that challenge tradition. So they rally around a leader who promises safety by controlling differences, eliminating people that are different. But those who oppose Trump see different as desirable. They know progress comes from inclusion, from new people, new thinking, new ideas, and even uncomfortable change. So here's the problem. Neither side really understands this. Those opposing Trump think his base is simply wrong and hateful, but they don't see the fear they feel underneath. The fear, the deep belief that things change too fast and that change will collapse America. And Trump and the Republicans feed into this. They tell America that different is always dangerous, but that is categorically wrong. And historical patterns show it is wrong. Nations grow stronger when they embrace diversity and adaptation. Difference is what built America in the first place. And staying the same or moving back is what will kill America. To those against Trump, you must engage with the fear, not just fight it. To those supporting Trump, you must face the truth that safety doesn't come from control. It comes from progress. And progress comes from difference. How do you see the world? Is different dangerous or is different desirable?
Now that you have seen the bigger picture, one thing is clear. The immigration debate is not only about borders. It is about the kind of country Americans want to become. It involves questions about national security. It involves questions about the economic growth. It involves questions about fairness, about family unity, and the role of law. For decades, both Republicans and Democrats have promised immigration reforms, yet reaching a lasting agreement has remained very difficult, because the issue involves competing values and priorities. In 2026, immigration continues to influence elections, communities, national conversations. The challenge for America is finding a balance between maintaining secure borders, respecting laws, supporting the economy, and addressing human realities behind immigration. Now we want to hear from you. Which approach do you think will increase a better immigration system for America? Stricter enforcement, more legal pathways, or combination of both? Share your opinion in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the Freedom Room. Support the Freedom Room by subscribing, like and comment on our videos. Turn on your notification bell so that you continue to see notification from us as far as immediately new videos are uploaded. Thank you for watching to the end. We'll see you in the next video.